Good morning, St. Martin. What's up? What's cooking? Aye, what a morning. That rain was falling so good. Just didn't want to get off my bed. So let me apologize first of all for being a little late. I don't like to be late. I like to respect people's time. But yeah, today was one of those days, like how they say. Today was a wacky Monday, a manic Monday. But let me see what all went down. Today, my main topic is going to be the political theater in St. Martin. Do we screen? Do we not screen? How do we screen? Who screens? What screens? We're going to talk about it. But let me first address a few other little things. Let me start off with Carnival. The opening of Carnival was great. Great jump up. Unfortunately, after the jump up, some youngsters decided to go at it with each other. I think a few were arrested and paid a fine and then let out. Others were caught with guns. And with all the incidents we have been having lately with shooting among the young people, the police have to do what they got to do, and they are very, very strict, and they really move in on people when things go wrong. But Carnival itself was great. The jump up was great. A lot of people had fun. I personally didn't see it, but I spoke to a lot of people and they said it was nice. A lot of young children, but they were behaved. Let me put it that way. They were behaved until after the event. SCDF, they had their challenges this year again. Every year they have some challenges, but they're trying to do their thing. They're trying to put their stamp on an event. And I must say, a lot of people called me, other friends of mine, seeking donations to be able to participate in the Carnival, the troops. So they need help. Now again, don't misunderstand me when I said they need help. Some people jump every year and they become icons in Carnival. And sometimes they need help with their troops, because every year that troop is part of what makes Carnival. This year, unfortunately, even when you looked at the kids parade, beautiful parade. I truly enjoyed it. But it was small. There were 4 troops and 1 from the French side. While we have 25 schools in St. Martin, I think we have to go back and revisit the system. Where do we put some money? Do we put money? I personally believe we put money in school troops. Steel pan, that's our things. Junior Calypso, the Queen shows. We can do that again. We used to do it in the past. We can do it again. This year, I think the first 6-7 days were pure local. And we closed it off with Concert X. What a concert. King James, kudos to you, my brother. Kudos. You have made me so proud beyond what you think. Locals filled the village with a show of caliber, a concert of caliber. Not no go come back, caliber. Telling me we can, if we have the right concept. So, this is something that I'm going to be a little more vocal about as we go along, because I believe we need to, everybody look at Carnival and say, oh, is the board? It's not the board. The board is fighting to keep Carnival alive, while we, patrons, government, corporate sponsors, are pulling plugs or are sinking a boat because of personal desires and greed. That's what's happening. But I'll tell you something. I went yesterday to the family fun day, and I enjoyed what I saw. I enjoyed it. The music was playing. Carnival music was playing. And mommies and daddies and kids were having a ball. A nice time. Well supervised, well controlled. Brilliant. I loved it. Really a nice thing. Now, again, I think the show that was held in Ali's, the Junior Calypso Road Match and the School Band Competition, was another great show. A little long, but a wonderful show. Gotta commend Dow and those boys for putting on that steel pan show. It shows we can if we want. We have to stop pushing down each other. We have to learn to elevate each other. We mightn't always like what's going down, but it doesn't mean to say you have to destroy one to make the other. That's what's happening this year. They're trying to destroy the SCDF to make something else. Well, let me tell you, lay bunks tell it to your bowl in your backside. Ain't gonna happen. If there's one thing I will do, is fight to block that nonsense. I don't have a problem with any promoter making money and so on. But there must be some sort of regulation. It cannot be so that when we have Carnival, we know that period. We know that period. That we have other shows running simultaneously. I'm not talking about a club having a party. I'm not talking about those things. But I'm talking about big events. You see, tomorrow, Rude got his shows in his place. I don't have no problem with that one. Find it a pity that the hitmakers left the village. But I cannot tell Rude I don't agree with him. It's his place. He invested his money to build Ali's. So keep your shoes, my brother. I understand that and I respect that. But the others, I got a problem with it. Because you're undermining Carnival. You can come with all kind of Nancy stories. I really don't care. I don't care about it. I'm going to speak out about it yet. Because there are a few things that I need to get questions on. Like the permit that was given on land that people own. They got a deed for it. Yet the government just goes and gives that land out in a permit to be used. This is ridiculous. And I might be saying, Bunks, what are you talking about? You all can remember the whole Christopher Emmanuel case? There were lots of land given out, with deeds, with notarial deeds. Those people own that land. Yet, a third party comes with permit from government and fences up people's land and uses it, exploits it to make money. That's what happened. But again, you see, when you give a permit for greed and spite, this is what happens. You make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, you got to be careful because people looking. And people will wait till you leave, And when you leave, they ain't go at you. Because then you got all the protection you believe you have. Belia, what a queen show. What a pageant show. I mean, you got to give it to them. Here in the village, P. Gordon and her team, what a Caribbean queen show. It made me think on the days of PGD2's Caribbean Queen show. Because Dan Hughes used to put on a show in the village. Man, nobody could have stand beside that show. What a show. Gotta give Dan kudos for that. What a show. And people used to come out and represent. And they did that Tuesday night. And they did that also in Bel Air. So you see, there is a lot of things. Because the village is so big, sometimes you have to use other venues. Otherwise, you got 1,000 people in Bel Air, 1,000 people in the village. Looks like nobody attended the show. That's the image that is then created. But I want to believe that for me, the show that I always go to, the show that I enjoy most, is the Calypso show. And I was not disappointed. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was not disappointed. There were some great singers. Naturally, some of the big guns were missing. I didn't see Bobo. I didn't see Brat. I didn't see Baker. So, yeah, some of them were missing. But those that were there delivered. Dow delivered. Empress Ebony delivered. Dr. Jones delivered. They really brought their thing to the stage. Pensioner too. But the night belonged to Fish, the mega boss. Fish dropped not one, but 2 tunes. Good, strong tunes. My 4 Falcon tires and You Shoulda Leave My Name. Both songs were masterfully put together. The lyrics showed you the strength of the Calypsonian Fish the Mega Boss. It showed you his strength. There is not many people that can put lyrics on paper the way Fish does. And it was rightfully deserved. He won, and I was happy for him. Naturally, some others feel others should have won, but you know what? Like I always say, the judges are the ones that are judging, and whatever happens. I don't like to see things that are not fair happen, but I don't think that Fish won unfairly. I think Fish won it fair and square. Now, other than that, I don't know. I think Carnival is going great. I hope that everything continues. We had the children parade last week, and again, kudos to the teams of parents, the troop leaders, the band leaders, the DJs, even young DJs were in that parade. They really put a great foot forward. And I hope and I know that the incoming Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports Affairs, MP Emmanuel, going to do a great job by ensuring that the schools also participate in a much bigger manner, because that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Having fun. It's not showcasing feathers. It's having fun. That's what Carnival is all about. Have fun. And at the same time, expose your culture. Now, let me see where we be. There was a lot of noise, because I want to see the follow-up yet, about the historic monument, the old Simpson Bay Bridge. I was there. I got a call. Go on Facebook, Christopher on Facebook. Something happened in Simpson Bay. I said, Simpson Bay? Okay. So I went, and indeed, MP Christopher Emmanuel was filming the filling of a parcel of land behind the old movie building from France and the Atrium Hotel. And basically that's a piece of domain land that was turned over to Port Plaisance in a land swap, I believe it was. I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not going to put my hand in the fire for that piece. I do know, and the reason I'm saying it was domain is because everything around it is domain. Where the building from France was, the movie building, that's domain. Beside that, the parking lot, the building, the health store, Royal Roxy's, all of that is domain land. So it would surprise me that the beach wasn't. But according to me, the beach is domain land, but there was a swap made with government for that land many years ago, not recently. And the access road to the old Simpson Bay Bridge, that was actually between the Burger King area and the Atrium parking lot. There used to be an entrance there, and then that entrance too was given away in a land swap between a politician and the owner. That's not relevant now. It is nice history, so you understand how this thing ran over the years to reach to where it is today. But the problem is this. The old Simpson Bay Bridge is a monument. It's on the monument list. And it has history. It has historic value when Simpson Bay and mainland St. Martin was separated by water. And this is a history of the mother from Lee Harley and them who used to bring over people from one side to the other side. And then back in the 50s, I believe it was, they built the first Simpson Bay Bridge. That was a wooden structure. And then it was rebuilt to the existing structure we have here now. So there's historic value to that bridge. Today, when you see that area, you will not, anybody born in the last 30 years, 35 years, will have no clue what we are talking about. Because everything has been filled in. Where you see Buccaneers and all, that's all filled in. All of that is filled in. A lot was filled. So you lose concept. When you look at Simpson Bay Marina, the lowest part was filled in. It used to be much more towards the hillside. With all the building that went on there, it lost its glamour. But that doesn't mean to say it lost its historic value. Now, the law changed back in 2012. In January, the law was not re-signed into law that you needed permission to dig up the hills or fill the lands. So not only cutting down hills, but filling up land was also a requisite. You needed a permit for that. That's the permit based on Article 28.1 of the AROP. That law was brought back to life last year by Minister Duran and Parliament. It was reenacted, which means if Pope Zans wants to fill the land, they need to ask for a permit. When we were down there, it became very evident there was no permit, and the filling had commenced, and the bridge, parts of the bridge, parts of the old road that are part of the monument were damaged. Now, again, you got to look at this thing objectively. I come out of public works. I've been there for 25 years. And I know how one department will not do something when pressure comes from on top. So when the ministers them start to get on stupid, because the owners contact the ministers directly and then the minister gives an instruction, do not do this or do not do that. That didn't happen this time around though. Not that I can gather it, because a few things were very, very clear. I want to list those things so we can understand it, because when Christopher Emmanuel was there and he stood up in front of the bulldozer, or the excavator, sorry, and tell him, I ain't moving. Call your boss and call the police. I know the people from Simpson Bay were there. I don't want to mention their names. They were there. They called the police too. Seemingly the police was there on Tuesday already before. Told them to stop. They came back and they did it again. They started filling again. So this time it got a little more serious, a little more out of hand. And they had no monumental permit. So the Monument Council has to give a permit when a monument is involved in any sort of building terrain. There are distances that must be kept. They had sand already on top of the bridge. But what I observed is right beside the bridge, there's a huge septic tank dug. Concreted. And I'm saying, how was that built? That nobody see that. Look, the normal man wouldn't see it, because you got to go around the building to go look for that. Or you got to be living on top of the hill in Billy Foley to see them doing it. So the normal person wouldn't see it. But I can't believe that nobody's seen it. They're building there, so the building inspectors would normally swing across, check, see if everything is going in accordance to the building plan. The permit that was given, you go and check. Now, I'm not saying they didn't do that, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I know how it works. I know how it doesn't work too. All I'm saying is maybe an in-depth look should be given to what's really happening. They had no monument council permit. They had no permit based on the ARUP, Article 28.1, which is issued by VROMI if you're going to fill your property with 3 feet of dot. Because when you fill your property, the surrounding properties cannot drain anymore. This property leads to the sea. That means if rainwater can't drain to the sea, where is it going to drain to? That area is known to flood. In front of Atrium always had a flooding issue. Why? Because the water can't drain no place. And for it to drain over the road, to run through the gut behind the old Billy Foley Road, going to Boulevard Restaurant, to cross the road there, go through pipes to go into the lagoon, ain't working. I think we have noticed that by now. So you have to make a trench towards the beach, so heavy rainwater can run off. Otherwise it ain't gonna work. But we don't want to do that because of the restaurants and the hotel there, and the beach ain't gonna be able to use when it rains, because a lot of dirt gonna come down and dirty up the bay. So they said, dump it in the lagoon because that's dirty already. That's the thought, people. Don't fool yourself. I worked there for 25 years. Don't fool yourself with what I'm telling you. Indications were clearly 2 Thursdays ago that VROMI was there on Tuesday and told them to stop. They cannot continue. That became clear to us on Thursday. And what caught my eye was when the Minister of VROMI found it necessary on the floor of Parliament to categorically deny any permission was given to start any works to Port Pleasance for filling the property, while the actual permit request is still ongoing. Because remember, that request, they're going to check the drainage. And if the drainage doesn't work, they ain't gonna allow nothing to get filled. And how that monument has to be protected, how much meters away from the monument you have to go, is another question. Because in reality, government has to take back the entrance between Burger King and Atrium Hotel right up and past the bridge with 10 meters. So that clearly the monument is protected. Clearly. Because what's happening, the permits they want is for a 10 to 12 story hotel building. And again, I am not telling them they can't use their property, because it's theirs to use. But the monument is not theirs to destroy. The monument is not theirs to take away from the people. We had that once before with Fort Amsterdam. Why are we making the same mistake again? The question is why? Who's allowing this? And this is not a shot at no one minister, because this didn't happen overnight, like I told you. This didn't happen overnight. Maya. Now, the minister also stated that in a meeting, and the Pride Foundation and some others put out videos and said, is the minister serious? Does he understand his role? Minister of VROMI also stated last week that they cannot stop people or companies from building because they have no instruments to do so. That's utter nonsense. You have a building ordinance, but you also have the ARUP. So when you see people ask for permission to build things, you check it also on the not only economic impact or the economic assessment, but also on the environmental impact assessment, the ECIR. That's what it's an impact study you do on what it will do when you chop up a hill. and you dump 100 apartments or 150 apartments in it, or you chop up the hill and you put a hotel in it, again, you do an assessment study. And with that determination, you then say yes or no to a permit. Nobody has a right to demand to do something if government says, I am not giving you a permit because you're going to make the country too much. Look, again, simple example. One campus owned from the old priest here and one chair Skin Boulevard right up to Slim's Corner. Imagine we go up there, we decide not to put 300-400 apartments up there. Put the whole hill full of apartments. There's my land, you can't tell me nothing. Are you serious, Minister? It doesn't work so. Because you can set limitations. Same thing like how you set a hilltop limitation. You set limitations to ensure you can protect the environment. So to blatantly just blare out on the floor of Parliament, or you have no tools, that's not true. Clearly showed me you didn't understand the powers that Vromi has. The Vromi ministry, the Vromi department has legislation that you see what happens? I'll tell you what happens in Vromi. The departments give an advice. The advice is not binding. Minister can, with a swipe of a pen, change it. Some dumb judges didn't understand that in my case when I gave an advice, but that's a different story. The minister can take the advice and say, I agree with the department, I cannot issue the permit under A, B, C, D reasons. Done. They don't like it, go to courts. Alegria was a great example. They wanted water rights to go build all kind of things. The minister said no. I didn't agree with it. And he used the reasoning from Vrom that said, no, we don't agree with it because it can damage so and so. And then they came back and said, but if you do it this way, it can happen. So again, the ministry has the authority to say yes or no because it's domain land. But if it is private land, the ministry can also say no, showing the reasons. The other side of that coin is, though, if you block people from economically developing their property by, for example, zoning it green, because government can zone it green, then you got to buy it at market value. That's what it is. No more, no less. But that you can't do anything, that's not true. There are things you can do. You just need to look for them, and then you'll figure it out and find it. So we got to be careful because, you see, and the reason I brought this topic up is I don't want the old Simpson Bay Bridge to become the next Diamond Hill Plantation bastion that was destroyed in the dark of night. Nothing has happened with that. And if I'm wrong, please correct me because I'd be a happy camper. But to my knowledge, nothing has happened. Nobody has been held accountable for it. It is white heaps of old historic bastion walls. That's what we got to prevent. And it isn't nothing about people getting upset. It is, we know what's going to happen. Then we all going to go down Simpson Bay, sing a goddamn Kumbaya song, and we move on in life. That's it. That's how we behave. That's how we are. We shouldn't pretend to be different. We should change to become different. That's the big difference, people. A lot of people, send me things. But Gampa, you got to talk about this new province. How true is that? Look, our laws are clear. The charter is clear. Constitution says we're an autonomous country. Can we become a province, a new province tomorrow? That was a, how would I say, a wet dream from some Dutch politicians. those that were involved, some of them get put out, thrown to the government already. So no, I don't see that going to place. We would need to have a referendum and all kind of things so that the people can decide. They would want that. We have the right to decide what we want. We decided we wanted to become an autonomous country within the kingdom. We became such. It took us 20 years. We decided this back in 2000. 2010, we became autonomous. 2024, we here in new province. I'll tell you this much. Don't waste your time staying up for something that ain't gonna happen in your lifetime again. It surely won't happen in my lifetime again. So I don't see it. But a referendum can happen if country Samaritan people, residents say, yes, we want to do it. It can happen. That means Curacao and Aruba got to decide the same if they're going to be in that province. Otherwise, it will be Samaritan and the three best. Maybe then we can just well suffice with putting an S behind best and move on. But again, I don't, listen, the Netherlands Antilles was broken because everybody was fighting for power. Now you're going to take the same group of fighters and put them back in a new province with hardly any legislative clout? It don't make no sense. But hey, I think it was a nice discussion topic. Wake up some people, get some people all riled up again. But it ain't going to place. Honestly, it ain't going to place. Let's talk about what I wanted to talk about today. Our political theater. Let me take a sip. Our political theater. The government and governor of contradiction. Clearly, when the 2x4 had signed up, there was a lot of bitterness in some parliament meetings gone past, and I can remember an MP saying the government of contradiction and the government of extension, all kind of governments. But again, we clearly have realized that the government and governor of contradiction have played a significant role in the screening process of Samaritan. And you might ask yourself, who is the government? But there is only one. There's an to-be incoming government. But the government has to make up the national decrees, the LBs, to send them up. The landsbesluiten, they got to go up. And those landsbesluiten have to be signed off so that the new ministers can come in. But again, when you look at this, and I'm going to use some passages today from people like, for example, Terence Ray, who wrote about this, and people like Dick Dreyer, who wrote about this. Now, a lot of people don't know who Dick Dreyer is. Dick Dreyer is a very cynical writer based in Curacao. He isn't afraid to step on people when he needs to step on them. He isn't afraid to call out people when he needs to call them out. And the good thing with him is the Dutch have a lot of good ears for him. You see that dossier Koninkrijk? Every weekend, one of the islands writes something. This weekend it was Mr. Terence Ray's turn. I think his column named the screening process is screaming for revamp. And he's right. Because everybody is trying to figure out what exactly is the screening process all about. Now, I'm not going to go in depth on what it is all about. I did that already a few weeks ago. I explained the screening process. What is going to become very interesting just now is what's going to happen on May 3rd. Because when I read the formateur's report, let me rephrase that word before they say I read his report. When I read his press release, and I read the press release of the leaders of the 2x4 coalition, the DP now and PFP, because the USRM leader is the formateur. When I read that press release and I read the press release of the governor, something is off altogether. Somebody playing somebody, or somebody outright lying. So let's start with how the press releases came out. The governor came out with a press release and stated that he received the amended report from the formateur. And these are the following ministers that are going to be sworn in on Friday, May 3rd. And I said, when I read that, I said, but wait. Formateur put in only 7 names and not 9. So I called my party leader. I said, but you all agreed to change the report? He says, absolutely not. Didn't take too long, and the leader of the NOW, the leader of the PFP, and the leader of the Democratic Party put out a press release stating what all went down, when it went down in a timeline, and where we are today. It remained silent, and then the chairlady of Parliament made a statement that resonated not only in St. Martin, but also in the Netherlands. We have to change the appointment of ministers. It becomes an all-parliamentary affair, like it is in the Netherlands, and there's no governor involved in nothing. Governor has to sign the Landsbesluit, the national resolution, and if he doesn't want to, there are rules and regulations that, based on that, 4 of them to be very specific, he sends it to Holland, to the Kingdom Council of Ministers, and they will then look if it is in line with what the law says, and if it is not in line, they send it back and they tell him, sign it. They don't ask him, they instruct him. That's how it works. Now, the formateur decided a few days ago, I think it was Saturday, don't hold me to it, to come out with a very, very strong message stating that he sent in 9 candidate ministers for swearing in after thoroughly reviewing and vetting the candidate ministers. This last part is extremely important because the governor does not carry any sort of political responsibility for the candidate ministers. To the contrary, the Prime Minister of St. Martin carries the political responsibility for the governor, because the governor has none. And he shouldn't become a politician, because if he does, he should vacate the office and run on a slate. The governor cannot be politically aligned as he is right now. The governor is aligned politically, and that's a problem. That's a very serious breach in the integrity and code of ethics of the governor. A lot of people be afraid to talk out. Look at the media, they are crickets. Crickets. The written media hasn't said a word. Kind of afraid. Afraid to get called. Hey, what are you doing? At least Terence Ray came out swinging. And some bloggers too. They came out swinging. Because you cannot do this nonsense. And then you hear them say, oh, the government and the governor of extension. Because again, the governor had to give another extension to the formateur. And they came out swinging with stories. Be transparent, tell the truth. But the formateur is telling the truth. But somebody else lying, saying that with amended reports, these are the names. No, they are not. Those are not the names. The names are the 9 names that the formateur sent to the governor. That's what it is all about. I hope that the LBs went up. Because they want to swear them in Friday. Government closed today. Government closed tomorrow. Government closed Wednesday. So they're going to send them up Thursday. They got a mistake in one of them. They can't swear in the person. Have to go and change this, go change that. This is crazy. We are 4 months further after elections with a government that was willing to work with each other with a program 7 days after elections. Not like the Netherlands, where up until today they can't find each other in a governing accord, you know. We have one. We have an agreement. And what we going to do and what we ain't going to do, how we going to do it, when we going to do it. But, oh, we need to screen this, oh, we need to screen that, oh, this one said that, oh, that one said that. Come on. Then we got constitutional norm, then we got habits. But what does the damn law say? Because that's what you got to use. But no, that we don't use. You see, it is sometimes unfortunate that we have to behave this way. Because the norm that they are trying to use, and then they're referring to what we brought over from the Netherlands and Antilles and what we didn't bring. Look, people, I think it was in 2013, if I'm not mistaken myself, the discussion about a new screening law came up. And regulations were put in place. And those regulations were to be used in 2014. And then Theo Heiliger and the Up Party won a landslide. So Theo was to become Prime Minister of the country. Blah. The Dutch jump up. They said, absolutely not. We are not going to allow this. Blah, blah, blah. And the then Governor Holiday got Koninklijk Besluit telling him, this is what's going to happen for you to sign the LBs. So he got an instruction. After the whole screening was done, I think the formateur then became, because Theo was the formateur, I think he dropped. He said, I done this. And I think Marcel Gums took over the formateurship, and eventually a government was put in place. And I think Marcel Gums became the Prime Minister instead of Theo Heiliger. All 7 members of the Up Party remained in Parliament. None became a minister. Nobody put up the name to become minister. That's what went down. And a new group was put in, and they had a government. That kingdom decree, that instruction was valid for the 2014 installation of the government. So, and there were screenings of all kind of things they had to do. And then came 2016. And then they started using that norm again. But that norm was dead. So you had to go back to the 2013 norm, which was nothing really. Because in 2010, when we became country, we came over with what we call the Landsverordening Integriteitsministers. So there was a national ordinance on the integrity of the ministers. And that law is only to deal with the ministers when they're in office. And it's the job of the Prime Minister to keep them in check, or Parliament to keep them in check based on this law. That's what it is. St. Martin doesn't have a screening law. There's a regulation on what you check when they're going in. You owe taxes, you this, you that. This thing about you're under investigation, you were convicted. BS doesn't exist. In Holland, it doesn't exist either. But suddenly now, oh, we got a norm. Oh, we have a habit. If you have done something wrong for 10 years, it doesn't become right. It remains wrong. You know, I decided to go and read up a little bit on the governor's role in all of this. What does it really say? And you know, political interference is not one of them. It's not allowed to have any kind of political interference, and he may not use the law wrong. And if he does so, he's punishable by law. Articles 22 and 23 of the governor's regulations are very clear on this. They're very clear on this. So I'm amazed on his behavior. This is, the governor is not a dumb boy. He's well studied. So I am disappointed because it's one of our own people again. It's one of our own people again. And this is what hurts me, because you cannot try to convince other people that our laws must be pushed aside to use a norm that is not law. This is a problem. This is a very, very serious problem. And if we feel that people who are under investigation or people who are convicted may not become a minister, then for God's sakes, let's do like Curacao and make a law and pass the law. Make it and pass it. Do that. But don't come here now and say, yeah, but it's a norm we've always been using. You see what happened now? In this formation, the governor has bounced up on a formateur and political parties that they ain't going to do the swan dance with him. They have said, boo, we ain't going there with you. You're going to appoint the ministers. And ignorance and arrogance might tell him, I ain't doing it. Send it to Holland, we're going to see. I agree. Then that's what's going to happen. But all 9 LBs have to be made and sent to him. And then let him say, I'm not signing. That's his right. You don't feel comfortable, you don't want to sign it? You don't sign it, sir. You send it to Holland, and Holland will call you and tell you, hey, get in line, sign the things. You're way off base. But hey, sometimes that's what has to happen, so that the public of St. Martin understands that the law is the law. You can't keep dancing around it. If you don't like what it is, then change it. Make a proposal. Ask Parliament. Do electoral reform. Because electoral reform was something that was on the agenda 10 years ago and still hasn't happened. We talk a good talk, but we don't really do it. I can recall my 2 years in Parliament, we tried electoral reform. But as you reach that topic, everybody, the only part of electoral reform that passed was, instead of getting paid 2 years after your term, you get paid 1 year. That passed. Nothing else passed. Nothing else really passed. Don't need about to fool you. But again, I beat up on the formateur some time back. Then I was disappointed in him. But let me say this. When I read the formateur's statement in the newspaper, with his stance on the report he handed in with the 9 candidate ministers, despite the despite the governor putting out a statement in the newspaper a few days before that is an amended report with 7 names came in, he basically packed him up. He packed up the governor. Has never happened before in our 14 years. Has never happened before. He didn't ruffle his feathers, he cut his feathers. And I was happy, because the formateur made me feel like a lion who doesn't concern itself with the opinion of the sheep. That's what the formateur did. See, the formateur told the governor, this is my position. Do not try to bring a wedge in between me and my coalition partners by putting out your Nancy story about amended report and here are 7 names. That's what you did, sir. That's what you did. And please don't come tell me the report was a phony report from your cabinet. Because you didn't pull it back the next day. It remained there and it has now started to live a life of its own. So again, I am very proud of the formateur who did what he had to do and will become our Prime Minister this Friday. Thanks to my boy Terence Ray for writing what he wrote. He's sometimes a little cautious, and I understand that. You don't want to rock the boat sometimes too much. We differ there. Me, I ain't rocking the boat, I turn over the boat. Because sometimes you gotta call a spade a spade. Sometimes you got to stop the nonsense dead in its track. Because you can't let this continue. Either we're a country or we're a banana republic. You can't be both. You can't be fish and fowl. You either fish or fowl. And sometimes we try, and then we have to take this rhetoric about what's going to happen. When you see a fellow like Dick Dreyer come out from Curacao New, and they start to talk about our process and the ministers. You see, you know what the funny thing is? Our Constitution speaks about how you can become a minister, which criteria you have to adhere to. It says that, you know. It says it clearly. Then we have some regulations that have no sort of legal footing. None. It's not anchored in law, nor does it have any binding regulations. That's the one from 2013. That one I'm talking about. Has no legal footing. And then we start talking about screening with the VDSM. The minister's function is not a screened function. It's not a screened function. The function of a parliamentarian is not a screened function. It is not in our Constitution. So why are we doing this? Why are we behaving like this? Who are we impressing? I mean, sometimes I really, really wonder why we go this far. So, according to me, and according to many other scholars, Christopher Emmanuel and Rayon Peterson are eligible to become ministers in accordance to the law of country St. Martin. So when will the theatrics stop, Mr. Governor? We speak of integrity and transparency, and it's something I seriously and strongly support and believe should always be at the forefront of any handling, be it by the government, the governor, entities given special powers to do things on our behalf. I've never seen so much lacking during this formation process by the governor. Accountability also must prevail, especially when we use the term integrity to hold up the swearing in of the people's government, instead of trying to create a government of your desire or somebody else's desire. When our own start to become part of the process, not to elevate our own, and the judicial branch puts trias politicas, in my opinion, in the trash can, we cannot honestly say we are a democratic country and our ministers were appointed correctly and lawfully. When rules, norms and habits are made and used to please a few under the disguise that is being done for the country's well-being, we must be bold enough to ask, whose country are we referring to? Ours or theirs? Our formateur did so this time around. He asked asked them those questions, and they got mad. There are more things I can tell you about it, but at this point in time, we are at the crossroads. This is the first time in our young history of 14 years that we have packed up those appointed to look over us. Let me leave you all with this legal statement by legal minds that know what they are talking about. The governor just has to sign when the newly appointed Prime Minister Marcelina presents him with the appointment decision of the other ministers, Emmanuel and Peterson especially. After all, the Prime Minister bears political responsibility for the actions of the governor in country St. Martin. I said that just now already. And seeing the governor can't show which regulations the Elbasan questions of Emmanuel and Peterson don't comply with, he should just simply sign it and move on. The 2030 national resolution with requirements that candidate ministers must meet is not valid, has no legal basis, and does not contain any generally binding regulations. The fact that the national resolution of 2013 has been followed for so many years does not make it binding. 10 times crooked stays crooked. This isn't mine. This came from the legal field of people I know. Let me make a few special mentions and congratulations. I want to publicly say congratulations to my youngest brother, Mr. Claudio Moncampa, with his new appointment as Chief Commercial Officer of the Sunrise Airline Group. Our own people said you couldn't cut it and they needed a foreigner to run the company to, like the school children said, make it sail ready. Others with a proper helicopter view and understanding what strategic thinking really entails saw your true potential and gave you the opportunity to continue to excel and reach your real potential. I'm truly happy for you, my brother. Someday, we will learn to understand the concept of what it means to elevate our own. You will do what you gotta do. Let me also send a very special congratulations to Ms. Zina Rogers, who received Best Player Caribbean Central Award for the Under-15 soccer. Mrs. Rogers, congrats, and Grandpa Antonio, congratulations, my brother. Happy for you all. You know, the Kingdom of State of the Netherlands released their 2023 report, making a very critical remark regarding the strong recovery figures of the Kos Islands, because they're saying, because we are recovering so fast and so good after the pandemic, we are once again masking our weaknesses with our income, and they are asking us to please move the mask and deal with your diversification so that you don't get caught in another a period of uncertainty with economic growth because of tourism alone. I think it's something very good. The council also said that it is high time that the dispute regulation is brought into life, because we will continue having serious tensions between the Netherlands and the islands. So it is time that that happens. The apology by the king on slavery was has deepened the cultural and historical understanding between the partners in the kingdom. Those are some of the big highlights that came out of the Council of State that were relevant to us, I believe. I hope that in the 2024 report, we don't read that unfortunately we have to remove our governor because of political interference, or like the school children are presently saying something else. There's a whole to-do right now on the social media about certain things that, because I can't prove it, I won't publicly state it yet. Doesn't mean I won't state it. I said yet. So for now, Let me close by saying to the new government to be sworn in this week, the time is now to start the recharge, the reset, and the restart of government. Please share my podcast and also like and subscribe to my YouTube page. Tomorrow is the big parade. Let's go out. Let's support our people. Let's support the troops. Support the village. Support the artists. Do your thing. The food in there is delicious. I had a few bites by different booths. I really enjoyed it. Have a great week. Bunks is out. Take care, man.